Yours is not a subtle approach.
See. Sorry for the delay.
Oh good, we're doing Revelations now. Okay, so I'm gonna make no bones about it. Even back in the day I found Assassin's Creed Revelations to be incredibly weak. So, going into this, maybe I had a really bad attitude, because I was not looking forward to this. Out of the entire Ezio trilogy, I did not want to play this one, but I figured I might as well, because, I mean, this thing is taking up, like, a third of my hard drive space, and I want to get rid of it at this point. And, as negatively as I remember this game, I will tell you this. It absolutely met my expectations for exactly what I thought it would be. Not that that's a good thing. Now, the story to Assassin's Creed Revelations is interesting. I mean, if you thought Assassin's Creed Brotherhood's plot phoned it in, and having played it again, I kinda sorta do, well, this game raises that art to a whole upper echelon of phoning it in. This game could not be asked about its plot so bad that it couldn't even phone its own plot in, that it had to get its answering machine to phone the plot in. That's how phoned in the plot is here. It is bafflingly bad. Unlike previous Assassin's Creeds, which had an A and a B plot, this game gets a little ambitious with having an A, B, and C plot, which does nothing to its advantage. The A plot once again follows Desmond Miles, continuing the plot right after Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, although for some reason, similarly to his mysterious appearing tattoos in the previous game, no time has passed, but he's now got a black hoodie instead of a white one. Okay. He's now in a coma, and in order to prevent his brain from exploding, because he can no longer discern whether he's Desmond Miles or Ezio Auditore, I'll give you a hint, Desmond. You're the character no one wants to play as. Somehow, in order to save his brain from exploding by having too many memories of other people, he has to experience more memories as other people. Yep. I don't understand how that works. There's little in the logic behind Assassin's Creed that I understand, but that is just dumb. It is just so dumb. Desmond also gets his own missions, which are like these weird first-person, I guess, sort of platforming puzzle segments that really make me feel like the developers really wish they made Portal. Because it's a very simplified puzzle game where the puzzle is always just make a platform to jump on. There's nothing to them, they're just a huge waste of time that gives you a little bit of a exposition dump on Desmond's past that are, spoilers, about as boring and going nowhere as he is. The B plot happens to feature Ezio Auditore, everyone's favorite golden boy of the assassins. His whole plot is that he wants to bum around Turkey for a while for want of something to do. You might think that's a joke, but it really isn't. As deep as this plot goes, basically he went to the old fortress of assassins, found a locked door, wants to explore to find information that will answer questions that are never brought up in game, and he's told that one of the 5 keys was found in Turkey, so off he goes to Istanbul. That's it. After that, he's just looking for books that will lead him to keys. That's it. Also now, Ezio is seeing visions of the world's second blandest man, Altair ibn La Ahad, and he's trying to pursue information and background stuff about him so that he understands what his whole deal was. Don't do it, Ezio! His blandness will rub off on you. And then it will correlate in some sort of super blandness that will rub off on Desmond, and then the world will destroy itself because it can't handle that much bland. Actually, I've heard a lot of people argue that it's not actually Ezio that's experiencing Altair, and it's actually Desmond, but considering the first time we see it is in the trailer that was also the intro to the game and is non-playable by us and by extension Desmond, I'm gonna say Ezio's definitely experiencing it and not actually Desmond. But more importantly, Ezio actually acquires the keys, which allows him to personally experience Altair's life, not dissimilarly to how Desmond is experiencing his. And all of this culminates in absolutely not a goddamn thing. The C plot, or as I like to affectionately refer to it, the actual plot, never even really gets going, but it's about 2 kings sort of vying for the throne of Constantinople, as well as trying to sort of stop a Templar threat while building up the Assassin Brotherhood. Even though they're already built up and considered heroes by many of the people, somehow you gotta start from ground zero because not really ever well-established reasons. Yeah, see, the thing about this game is even if you ignore all the Desmond stuff and just focus on the 2 plots Ezio has to deal with in this game, he has to do those 2 things in every chapter. You can't just follow the plot of, the actual plot, because every chapter you have to dedicate half a chapter to just finding a book to find a key. That, again, spoilers, goes literally nowhere at the end. It's a huge waste of time. It's weird that they have to chop up every segment into having dedication to each of these plots, because despite the fact that this game uses so many words to try and give you some reason to do what you're doing, it says absolutely nothing. And it says that nothing badly. By the end of it, the only thing that's really ever happened across the entire plot is Ezio definitely killed a whole bunch of innocent people by completely ignoring the rules of assassins. Way to go there, Ezio. And also, he started a romance with a woman that's like 40 years younger than him. Yeah, welcome to Assassin's Creed. Interest levels, 0. Now, Assassin's Creed Revelations is basically, in terms of mechanics, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. They haven't really done too much differently. They've added a grand total of 3 new mechanics, which I can talk about. The first of which being that Ezio broke one of his magical assassin knives, and instead of getting it replaced like he logically would, now he's equipped with the magical coat hanger Blade of Destiny, which has one absolutely game-changing ability. It gives him, drumroll please, hold your suspense, about extra 5 inches of reach while climbing, because coat hanger Blade of Destiny. Actually, that's not fair. It does have one other actually useful ability, and that is this: Ezio Auditore, Man of the People. Yeah, you can just randomly trip a bunch of people. Fun thing is, there's actually about 5 other contextual abilities you can do while running at people with this thing, and yet the game never seems to understand which one I want to do, so I just end up tripping people. Like, even when they try and tutorialize it, that's mostly what happened. This thing was supposed to be like a game changer. Yeah, you can like use it to zip line across rooftops, but the zip lines are in preset places that never lead you where you want to go, and they're always one way. Otherwise, it's just a completely worthless thing. I mean, the only really cool thing it has is in one quick kill, it looks like he tries to grab his opponent's brain through his nose, and then hang him by his coat hanger blade. I'll give you credit, game. That's kind of cool. But that's like the one thing you get. The next new addition mechanically, like the coat hanger blade, is bland, it's not well utilized, and it's nowhere to be found in the next game. Bomb crafting, because you can't just use smoke bombs now. You can now create multiple different bombs within 3 different sets: distraction, impairment, and outright execution, which leads to about a total of 9 different potential bomb combinations for each. Basically, you pick one of 3 different shells, one of 3 different bomb powders that dictate how effective it is, and then one of 3 different things that change its effect. And honestly, it's not well executed. I mean, just going back to the different powders, you never need anything other than the biggest explosive powder you can find. There's no reason to ever use anything else. Yes, they are a limited resource, but you get to points in the game where the game just gives you unlimited amounts whenever you want it anyway. Enemies drop these components all the time, and there are treasure chests that spawn everywhere that give you this stuff. In fact, the map has now like twice as many treasure chests, and if you like completing the map, you will never be able to beat this game, because now, not only are there twice as many treasure chests, they respawn indefinitely. And we'll get back to something else about collectibles and finishing the map as well in a minute. But the final little fantastic little addition mechanically to this game that the previous game did not have, and I don't think the next one did either, but I genuinely try to forget as much about AC3 as I can, and that is tower defense. Because tower defense? Yeah, that's about it. The nice thing about this is, with the exception of one specific level, it's never something you actually have to do. It only happens if you get wanted, and you can just go and pay an orator like 100 whatever Turkish money is in order to remove all that, and you're good. Which I appreciate, because I really didn't enjoy doing any of this tower defense nonsense. No, thank you. Now, on the bright side, there is one actually really cool thing this game does differently, and it's not really anything new, but it at least gives a little bit of more world building to it. Like I said at the top, this game once again features a brotherhood that has to be built up from the ground up, even though they already exist and are considered local heroes, because this game cannot be asked, and that is that 6 assassins that you will raise up are actual characters. Not much in terms of characters, but still, they actually have missions that you have to complete in order to first recruit them, and as they gain experience, you have to teach them through missions, and then see them finally grow at the final mission and make their final kill. I mean, it's not much, but I mean, it at least makes them characters as opposed to expendable resources that got killed every now and then, and it was just kind of frustrating to build back up. I appreciate that, if nothing else, and that is one of the few things about this game I actually do like. Now, I think the next thing that's worth talking about in this game is the fact that this map is not very good. I'm sure it's at least somewhat accurate to actual topography, but there is a giant river that cuts through about a third of the map that you could take a gondola to push yourself past, you could swim across, or you could, like, you know, watch a cutscene of your character just taking a boat across, but regardless, it takes forever to get across, and honestly, swimming seems like the fastest way to get through it. Now, the nice thing is you rarely actually need to go to the third that you start at that's separated, but it still kind of sucks that it happens. In addition, going back talking about how you'll never actually complete this map, well, there's more to this map in terms of collectibles, especially in this version, that are just baffling. Open world games like to have lots of collectibles. It gives purpose to exploration and just justifying the size of the world. This game, or more accurately, this particular version of this game, is the only open world game I've ever seen that completely makes 95% of its total collectibles completely worthless. Let me explain. So, this game, originally at the very least, had about 120 collectibles. Like previous Assassin's Creed games, it had 100 dumb things you could collect. Previously it was feathers and flags, well in this game, it's loading icons for the machine Desmond is plugged into. You unlock Desmond's story. You know, that portal thing that's a total waste of time. Yeah, that thing. Now the thing is, in the XbO collection, those Desmond missions that need to be unlocked are already unlocked, thus rendering 100 of 120 collectibles completely worthless. Okay, that's not strictly speaking true. If you get 25, you unlock the ability to buy another map, which can lead you to like 10 collectibles that actually have value, but they're not hard to find. And if you collect 50, well, you automatically get a map to the other set of loading icons you've missed up to this point, which, alright, I guess. Now, that's only 100 of 120 collectibles. Well, in Desmond's missions, there are these unlockable cubes that, actually in the original version, they seemingly did nothing either, but in actuality, what they did was unlock profile pictures for the multiplayer, which, similar to Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, has been completely gutted from this version. So, yeah, no reason to collect those, unless, of course, you want completion, which, as established, because respawning chests will never actually happen. So, that's about 110 of 120 collectibles, completely out the window. The final 10 are pages of a memoir, which will unlock a final mission, which allows you to get a super armor. Now, like previous Assassin's Creed games, there are barriers all over the map which will not allow you to cross until the plot demands it. Which means until chapter 7 of 9, you cannot actually get all these pages. Now, I know what you're thinking, okay, well, previous Assassin's Creed games did this, and fine, I won't get the ultimate armor until chapter 7. Well, the thing is, this game has 2 ultimate armors that are equally indestructible and equally powerful. And to get one of them, all you have to do is do the first set of assassin missions, which you can do as early as Chapter 3, 1/3 in the game as opposed to about 80% the way through the game. So by this point I already had the ultimate armor, thus rendering all of these equally useless. Basically 100% of everything you can collect in this giant open world game filled with collectibles are worthless. It's baffling. Like, genuinely, why would you do that? Put something in there. I mean, hell, the Armor of Altair is no longer available as a skin. Put that in as a bonus or something. I don't know. Make these things valued, damn it. Or take them out entirely. I don't care, but leaving them in here and having them have zero purpose is just a waste of time, and it goes against basic game design tenets. You don't put stuff in a game just because. Everything there is there for a reason, because it takes up space and resources. It's common sense. So yeah, this game completely flies in the face of basic game design sensibilities. Oh, this game is so bad. Otherwise, it's basically just Assassin's Creed Brotherhood in Turkey, with a few more cutscene moments that you have a little bit of control in, but ultimately end up doing nothing. everything I've complained about with the previous Assassin's Creed games, and I mean, if you haven't seen those videos, go see them, because they're about as long as this is probably going to be by the end of it. It's got all the same problems, and it does nothing better. In fact, it breaks a lot of stuff that actually, you know, kind of worked. Speaking of, this game is really, really buggy. I know the previous games were, but this game, it is the worst of the lot. Climbing around actually is fine, but I mean, just as a basic how this game works, it doesn't. I sat here and tried to record audio for about 30-40 minutes. The game crashed no less than 3 times. I don't actually have footage of this, but while I was doing one of the Desmond missions, just because I wanted to complete it for the sake of 100%, I ended up actually clipping out of the environment and having to walk around like this cream-colored hell of just awful nothingness, having to try and platform my way up back to the world itself. This game is just incompetently made on top of every other problem it has. It's baffling that it exists in the state that it does, especially considering that, again, this game is like a decade old, and this is a re-release of it that has been around for a couple of years too. So it's not like they haven't had time to update and try and fix shit. They just can't be asked, just like everything else about this game. It's very clear the people who were involved didn't care about this thing, and I'm having trouble caring about it as someone who's a passionate person about this series, as well as video games in general. And I hate when I see a lack of passion and people just going through the motions creating stuff, because it comes through so incredibly apparently. And this is like the epitome of it. That's what Assassin's Creed Revelations is in terms of content, is just people making stuff to meet a deadline and cutting corners doing it. Now, the overall presentation to Assassin's Creed Revelations is not great. I mean, it's basically what the previous games were, but there's a few things about this that I don't care so much for. For one thing, Ezio just doesn't look like Ezio. Like, yeah, I get it, he's older, but he's like supposed to be 10 years older. He looks like he's 90. In addition, this particular collection comes with 2 Assassin's Creed movies, one that is live action and horrible, but there's a really awkward-looking CGI one where Ezio's like 20 years older than this game. He looks younger than he does in this game, but more importantly, Ezio just doesn't have the same facial features as the character we've grown to know and love at this point. He just looks like some really old guy that just happens to sound like Ezio because reasons. In addition, he now has bright yellow eyes that someone really turned the contrast up on. Seriously, he looks almost like an anime character that's gonna shoot lasers out of his eyes at any minute. It's really bloody distracting, in addition to him just not looking like himself. Another thing I noticed, and it's not something I brought up with the previous games, but the character customization in previous games has taken a serious nosedive. For one thing, Ezio no longer wears a cape. Who are you, even? You're not Ezio. Get out of here. Let me just play as the guy I liked from the previous games. I don't even recognize you anymore. So there's no cape customization around this time. And there's also very limited robe color customization. For one thing, you start off with this really awkward gray that in all the promotional image looks kind of brown, in some shots looks kind of sort of vaguely black, and in other shots looks kind of blue. If you want the standard assassin white, while it is available at dye shops, it's the most expensive thing, and why it's not the default I'm not sure, but something that I personally really like, there's no black in this game. Closest thing you've got is this, again, weirdly color shifting blue, gray, brown nonsense that's his default, or you go with something that I'm going to, in quotes, put in as ash, and ash is basically this really ugly dark green. There's just no black in this game, which is weird. And also there's no armor of Altair, which is actually a plot point originally in Brotherhood. Like, Desmond even sees Ezio in the armor of Altair when he's a lot older. So he went back and got it at some point, but it's not in here. It's not here as an unlockable skin. Weirdly enough, the armor of Brutus is, even though it's not addressed at any point, in all of its ugly bright red glory. Ugh. Audio-wise, it is basically what you've come to expect from this series at this point, which is really great audio design, fantastic voice acting. However, I have noticed 2 weird anomalies with the voice actors, in that they took well-established characters and just got completely different voice actors to play the characters. On one hand, you have Altair, who is now played by someone who actually can affect a Middle Eastern accent, as opposed to someone they just pulled off the streets of Montreal. On the other hand, you've got Desmond's bestest buddy, Subject 16, who is no longer played by Cam Clark. And the thing is, you can't replace Cam Clark. He's the best at what he does for a reason. So, seeing these characters played by different people, especially in 16's case, it's just weird. And I mean, Brotherhood did this with Vieri de Pazzi, but he showed up in one scene. Noticing he was not played by Yuri Lowenthal was not that big a deal, because you almost didn't get a chance to hear him. Here, you're gonna be seeing Altair a lot because he's part of the plot, same with 16. So it really hurts that they changed these voice actors, because it just stands out. I mean, at least with Altair, it's for the better, but it's still weird. Now, if you want a copy of Assassin's Creed Revelations, cheapest one I'm seeing right now is $4.50. And would I recommend it? Well, I would under one exact specific scenario, and that is that you played the other two because you might as well just to finish up the set. Or you bought the compilation, but even then, this game very clearly cannot be asked. It does nothing but a disservice to the most interesting character this series has ever really had. This is Ezio Auditore. He had the amazing Assassin's Creed 2. The story in Brotherhood was maybe not great, but he was still the best part in it. He is a character that deserved to go out in a blaze of glory. If this really was his final adventure, then that's fine. But you have to do a service to him. You have to have him go out in a bang. You guys didn't even give him a whimper. This game is just a disappointment and a disservice to a character that deserved so much better. And once again, continuing the theme of Assassin's Creed games being made in the course of a year, it feels like this was rushed, and it feels like there was zero passion put in. This feels like a cash grab, trying to make money based on a popular character, but you couldn't even be asked to deliver that popular character. This game is shameful to Ezio's legacy, and I still think this is one of the worst Assassin's Creed games. It's certainly the worst Ezio game by far.
Stop him!